You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cricket Podcast for IPL Corner. It's going to be good. Yeah, it's already IPL Corner from now on. It is basically gearing up to the IPL. We're going to start here with the WPL and a little bit about the impact sub rule. But we've got, Ross, just thinking about this, we've got preview shows coming up. We've got about 5 more preview shows coming up. We've got our IPL coverage through the entire tournament. It will be popping off on the Discord if you join our Patreon, patreon.com/the cricket pod. And there'll be like a ton of things that we put on the YouTube.
Well, what I think is amazing, Jack, is that, and I don't think this is arrogant saying it, but we are the best cricket podcast that cover the IPL. Like, there's not a shadow of a doubt that we are the best one. So if you want to get involved, subscribe. We've got We've literally got analysts who have worked in the IPL. We've got cricketers who have played in the IPL coming on. What more do you want? Oh, you want Max, Jack, and I? Got that as well.
There we go. Yeah, it's great. Before we get on to that, though, we do need to give a shout out to our sponsor, manscaped.com. Use the code CricketPod for 20% off at manscaped.com, and you get free shipping. I always forget the free shipping bit, but that's a nice little bonus, isn't it? That's a few quid in your pocket. Ross, today is the 13th of March. Do you know what that means?
Well, it's not official Shave Your Balls Day because that was a month ago today, wasn't it? But the day before Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it's exactly a month since International Shave Your Balls Day, which means it's probably time for another trim. Now, maybe you heard us talk about this back then in February in the run up to Valentine's Day, and you had a go with whatever you had to hand, and I'd bet you made a mess of yourself. That's what I would bet.
You not only ruined your Valentine's Day, you ruined your partner's Valentine's Day.
Get yourself some proper equipment. The Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker for trimming your nose hair, the Crop Preserver ball deodorant, you name it, got the lot. That's with the code CricketPod. No stutter there, just CricketPod at manscaped.com, 20% off and free shipping. Your balls will thank you. Trademark.
Lovely.
I need the nose hair trimmer.
Well, there you go. Weed Whacker. It's good. Yeah.
I actually go to the barber. When I go to barbers, I go to barbers every week usually, and I do a zero.
Dan, I don't mean to be offensive, but that's the easiest job he's ever going to fucking do, isn't it?
100%. Head and beard, zero all over. But every month I wax my nose.
Oh,
hey.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because one of these problems, and you might develop this. As you age into your 40s, is you lose your hair on your head and you get it on your eyebrows, your ears, and your nose instead. So yeah, I do that, but maybe the
look, we got you covered.
Could be a good option for me.
We did one show. This is the second guest intervention on the Manscaped bit, I think. We did one where Cameron was like, "Oh yeah, I've just bought that using someone else's code." But that's a much that's a much better plug. CricketPod at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. Right, WPL is well underway. We have been covering this in some detail. I think the main story that you need to know is that we were catastrophically wrong and continue to be catastrophically wrong about the Mumbai Indians women's side, and the RCB have lost 5 out of 5. Now, there's your choose a story. Choose your own adventure. Which one of them would you like to talk about, Dan?
I think I'll go with the RCB one.
Okay, yeah. Tell us your thoughts on RCB from being 0 from 5.
Yeah, I mean, well, they went for this very RCB like strategy of, if my maths is right, spent about 70% of their budget on 4 players, and then had spent 30% on the rest of the squad, which may or may not contain players who Ross describes as just coming along on the bus.
Hey, Dan, look, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? I mean, how many successful franchise wins have RCB got for the IPL?
It doesn't actually matter, Ross, because in 2016, Virat Kohli was quite good.
No, that is true. That is true.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see that it does translate into the women's game. So, Dan, please continue.
So in all seriousness, I have a little bit more sympathy for that argument in women's cricket as opposed to men's, because I think that the differential between the top women's players and the average women's player is greater than in men's cricket. So I do have some form of sympathy for RCB in that respect about going for that strategy, although I still think it was very top heavy. The main problem for them so far, I think, is that their 3 big ticket domestic players just haven't really performed so far. And yes, Elise Perry and Sophie Devine and Heather Knight have all done pretty well, but the domestic players, I think the expensive domestic players have let them down so far, and I think that's causing them a big problem right now. And I don't know if, I mean, did you see about the talent hunt, guys? It was really interesting actually, because they put these videos out on Twitter, I think, and they were looking for bowlers who could bowl in domestic market, who could bowl 130 plus kph.
Aim high.
Huh? Yeah, well, you've got to be ambitious. Right? I'm not sure whether anyone in women's cricket has bowled over 100.
No, we were talking about this just off air, and I think you said it would be like doing a trial to find somebody who can bowl 150k. It'd be more like trying to find somebody who can bowl 165k. Like it's like way off the charts.
So anyway, if you're English male and you can bowl 165 plus kph, come and find me. And I will definitely look to try and get you into some program with one of the teams that I've got.
Yeah, that's great. You'll be in the Kent second team before you know it. It's
basically the equivalent, though, right?
I love the IPL, and I like the brand that they're building, and I love the brand that some of the franchises have built for themselves as well. I think it's quite fun watching a sports league where teams have an identity. And I, for one, am really happy that RCB have gone with, paying all their money to a few people, having absolutely no fail-safe, collapsing spectacularly.
I think we should dedicate that to Rickon, one of our Patreons, who is, but let's is the biggest RCB fan we know. And he went in saying, "There's no doubt in my mind we are going to win this Women's Premier League." So Rickon, commiserations, my friend.
At the other end of the table, I mean, there's the team I think are the best, Delhi. We talked about them quite a lot, and I think by and large they've shown that they are the best. They've lost 1 from 5. There's another team that have really stolen the headlines though, and I am a little bit surprised by this. The Mumbai Indians. Dan, I think I had them down as the 4th or 5th best team in the tournament. They've definitely proved me wrong. Were my expectations just too low for this team?
No. I think that it was certainly pretty fair at the time. But I think what we've seen here with the MI women's team is we've seen sort of 3 players carry them with the batting that perhaps RCB hoped would be the same for them, but MI have actually had that. They've got 3 batters who have scored in excess of 125 runs, all at a strike rate of over 140, and 2 of them with a strike rate of 150. So I mean that usually does get the job done. So yeah, that they've managed to some big performers there, and they've also managed to find a left arm orthodox spinner who's never played international cricket for India, Saika Ishak, who's got 12 wickets as well. So that's an average of just under 7 at an economy under 6. I mean, that's
how you do scouting, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And Izzy Wong, I think, has been really, really impressive as well. So that's good to see from a Birmingham Phoenix perspective as well. So yeah. They've surprised, but it's been really good for them so far.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that about halfway through the tournament. I think it's been mostly a success so far. I think the quality of cricket's been good, and I'm sure we'll check back in as we head closer towards the playoffs. The other thing we wanted to get you on to talk about, Dan, was the impact sub rule. I've seen that you've written a Substack about this recently.
Yeah.
Going through all the IPL teams and actually doing analysis of who might perform what role as well. So if you're interested in that, head over to Dan's Substack and give it a read. I want to give Ross first thoughts though. Ross, impact sub.
Impact sub.
Are you a lover or a hater?
My gut feel tells me I'm a hater.
Okay, because you can only be one or the other. Like, there's
I
see some advantages.
Yeah. You have to remember, Jack, we live in quite a polarized society now, so it is very black and white. There is no grey anymore.
Absolutely, and we should contribute towards that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to go to the dark stuff. I hate it more than I hate anything else in the world. I think from a cricket point of view, cricket is on a kind of a mission to bring more and more people to the game. Like we're always in an existential crisis, it seems, of the future of Test cricket, kind of making sure that we're attracting small children and women to the game, like Andrew Strauss successfully done with 100. And sometimes I think that adding in some of these rules takes away that ability to do that. Sometimes I think it makes it more complicated for people to actually get into. And I think that the people who already like the game actually don't need some of that gimmick side of it. I mean, even in the Big Bash, there were some of those kind of really quite silly rules that kind of came in and didn't really land particularly well. Does the game itself really need that kind of tactical innovation? And I'm not so sure it does. But would welcome Dan's opinion as he's well into.
I'm going
the game
to slightly divert the conversation because I don't want to bring Dan on here to defend the IPL's rule, but I am really interested, and I'm sure we'll debate it as we go through. I'm on the fence, but I'm leaning towards hate. But no, sorry, I can't make you choose between polarization and between hatred and love. I hate it as well.
No, that would be very on brand for the director general of this show. I'm obviously. Am I Gary Lineker in this scenario? I don't know.
Well, if you want to be Gary Lineker, you can. And what I am interested in, though, is like what the impact this is going to be. Now, like part of the reason I think that I don't like it is that it will upset the rhythms of the game, as my cat feeder goes off in the background there, and some of the strategy and the nuance that currently exists in the game might be superseded and rendered useless, perhaps, by what happens with the super sub. Dan, how do you actually see it playing out in practice? And what would be your top tips for the impact sub?
Okay, so first of all, if we're going for this polarization that we've got to the mandatory polarization, I love Marmite and I love Impact Player. And I love quirky T20 rules that if you're smart and if you plan well, you are going to get competitive over your opposition. There's no doubt about that. And Ross, you already mentioned the BBL rules. I mean, I actually really like them as well, but the teams were just so inept at working them out. I remember one game where they needed 3 off and over to get a bonus point, and they just battered the over out and didn't get it. And I'm like, why? This is a quarter of the points available for a match, and you didn't bother trying to hit one boundary.
So, someone's read it wrong. That's what's happened in that. Just like you can't hit any runs in this over.
And we saw that again in the South African T20 League, which had a bonus point for certain margins of victory as well.
Victoria took full advantage of that, didn't they?
And there was a match where Mumbai could have got it done really quickly, and they didn't. And ultimately, that was enough to eliminate them with a game to go. If they'd have got that bonus point, they would have been in the game, I think, for the last game. So, look, it's all going to be about competitive advantage. Who adapts to it quicker? As Jack said, I've got a Substack. It's pretty long. It's pretty detailed. It's
10,000 words.
Fourth Substack down on my feed. So danweston.substack.com. Fourth Substack down if you want to have a read. Look, I think teams are going to make a lot of mistakes. It wouldn't shock me if teams didn't even use an impact sub to start with, despite the fact that it is the most obvious thing that you would want to do in a match. Or they'll pick
So could you explain what it is?
Yeah, so you've got a choice of 4 subs that you can use in one in the match. And it can't be an overseas player unless you start a match with 3 overseas players.
Okay,
so
and you can use it. And you can use it at any time in the game.
100%. Yeah, I think so. You can basically, if you bowl first, you can sub a bowler off and put a batter on. So it lengthens your batting. It gives you more options. And like I said, I think that teams are going to really struggle with it. I think that there's four likely roles that teams are going to use: a spare batter to increase batting depth in case they lose a power play. And I would love to see this because it's going to render the most meaningless stat of 3 down in the power play from commentators that they love. It's going to be
if you're 4 down in 8, you know what they say.
If every team who's been 3 down in the power play, plus they've lost their impact player, they always lose. That will be the new one.
Get that win predicted at 0%.
Yeah. The next one is a high impact, high intent batter, finisher, pace hitter, Abdul Samad, basically. that type of play, I think, would be really useful. Game changer, basically. You need 35 off the last 2 overs. You sub this guy in and get rid of your anchor, kind of thing. That would be fun.
It'd be like the Hetmeyer role, but obviously a domestic player. So someone could literally just get as big as they possibly wanted to do and be like, I'm here to face an over or two.
Yeah,
bring it on.
Just kind of smack it. And all these things.
Odin Smith's muscles would be ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, like all these roles, I think, are going to create real niches in terms of the auctions in the future as well. If you've got almost like a special teams guy, if you like, do you know what I mean? Like someone who can come in and reliably be an amazing sub. That's actually pretty valuable because a commodity. And
you say we're bringing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to the IPL?
Well, yeah, we could do. Yeah, absolutely. It'd be better than Richarlison. Okay, so the next one is a bowling specialist, phase specialist. You know, like maybe they'll get subbed off or they'll be subbed on. You know, like a power play specialist. You get them on, you bowl maybe 3 in the first 6 or 4 in the first 8 or 9. You get them off, and you get a death bowler on or a batter. That sort of thing. I expect that to happen a lot. And a sub spinner as well would be pretty mandatory, I think, as a bench option as well. So matchups, or maybe the team, the opposition throws a curveball and picks 4 left-handers in the top 5, you sub your off spinner on, that sort of thing. That's a good shout as well. Or you play at your port, you're not sure how the conditions are, and then you want to pick the extra spinner when you're bowling second, or that sort of thing.
Can I ask a question about this? Right. So when it comes to naming the 11, does this mean that you want to name, because that's going to factor into your decision later on in the match? Do you name the 11 is now after the coin toss, and that means that you have these tactical options to play later on, or do you have to gamble one way or the other? So everyone tends to bowl first, don't they? So you could make that assumption and you could pick your team assuming you were going to bowl first, knowing that if you lost the toss you're going to bowl first, and if you win the toss you can choose to bat first. So you can effectively set up tactically to have this extra player in the second innings, or is that or is the naming of the team after that, and so some of this stuff is a moot point?
I'd love to see the teams named after the toss. I think it would really exaggerate the effect of this rule as well, which would be great to see. As far as I know, though, it's going to be before the toss. So I think the South African League, they toyed with.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Some teams still name the teams before the toss. So go figure. You want an advantage? Nah, don't worry about it. Yeah. but there's ways and means, I think, that you can cover all bases. So, for example, for Punjab Kings, obviously, I know a lot about their players. I know I looked at perhaps an 11 which had Balta Singh in it, who I think would do really well as a power play specialist, which I think the team needs. And then he bowls in the power play, and then you sub him off, and you get a different type of player on, or you get Harpreet Brar, who can bowl left arm orthodox spin, come on, lengthen the batting, or a Taide who's a spare batter. So there's different options there, I think, that PBKs can do. So you can almost start someone with a view to subbing them off, if that makes sense. So, but then obviously, like, those kind of plans go out the window if you're like you pick a power play specialist and then you end up bowling second. It's kind of, by that point, a lot of the time, the options that you wanted, spare batters and stuff, are gone. Whereas if they're bowling first, you can get him out of the way, get him done, and bring the batter on for the second innings, kind of thing.
I think we should sponsor this, Jack. I think we should it should be the cricket podcast impact sub. I think we should.
We hate. We've already named ourselves as haters.
Yeah, but that's okay. That's okay. We can still get out there. Just
well,
imagine.
I suppose, like Channel 7 in Australia do the Big Bash, don't they? And they appear to hate that. So maybe we can, maybe there's some deal to be done. Do you remember back in mid 2000s, there used to be the super sub in ODI cricket, and it was always like a mediocre all rounder. Is there any danger that we just see a parade of mediocre all rounders?
100%. Yeah, like I said, teams that have historically been really slow to get their head around rule changes, adaptations, and niches. And I think we're really asking a lot for them to come up with a semi-optimal strategy pretty early on in the tournament, at least.
Yeah.
So
I think what you've said though, Dan, about the power play is just so essential, right? For both teams, you have a shit power play, you can react. Like if you have a great power play, you can take advantage of it. Like it's a huge advantage for teams if they get this right.
Yeah, 100%.
I would. I mean, I
wouldn't do
think.
it.
I think I would go if you assuming you have to name your team before the toss. I think I would name a team designed to bat first, knowing that you're going to get stuck in all the time, and that whenever you win the toss, you at least at the beginning, because it will take teams a while to realize, oh my god, they're doing it a bit differently, and then you can make more predictable substitutions in the second innings, making I think a fairer assumption that you will be bowling second. I don't know. If like whether that idea holds water, but
I don't mean, so basically you're picking a side knowing that you're going to bat first more often than not because you're going to set up to do that. Yeah. And you know you're going to get stuck in the other way if you lose a toss.
And then if you lose a toss, you make an impact sub the other way, and you
Makes
kind
sense.
of but then the other team have to set a target themselves, which they don't want to do because everyone's scared of doing that in the IPL.
What I do like about the rule, I've just been looking at it in the background, that once you're subbed off, you're not even allowed to come back on as a fielder. so literally, you're out. You're back in the hut. You sit down. You're not allowed to do anything else other than sit in that chair. That would be good if they had to go and sit in the Tata IPL car.
What's the safari?
Off you go. Yeah, off you go.
Yeah. Cool.
Would there be any calling for a specialist captain and substitution at one point as well? I wonder.
Oh,
well,
maybe sub off your captain. What happens? They have to throw the armband to somebody else, like
maybe this prolongs Dhoni's career for quite a while. Maybe that's what really happens in this.
Right,
so
boys.
Who do you think is going to be the worst at implementing it? Who do you reckon is going to prop? Was it two?
That's a good final question. Good final question.
Well, the worst.
Yeah.
It goes a bit against my kind of liking for them over the years. I actually think Mumbai Indians are going to really struggle because they've got a lot of bus dwellers, Ross. And they're in my article, I found it really difficult to find players in their squad who look like they'd be likely to make an impact.
It's quite hard to find some player, like, a 9th, 10th, and 11th player to actually get in the first 100%. Team, isn't it? Like, it's not. They're all right. The top 7 is okay, and then there's like this big Boomer-shaped hold, and then you're like,
Jai Richardson's out as well now.
How do they get Berendorf into this team?
And if Jock Archer's injured as well, then they're just doubly screwed.
Yeah. Right. We are going to call it a day there. A little reminder to everyone to like and subscribe to the Cricket Podcast wherever you listen or watch. Follow us on Twitter at The Cricket Pod. Follow Dan on Twitter at SA Analytics Advantage. SA Advantage. Stay tuned because we're going to go pretty IPL heavy, I think, aren't we, Ross? Over the next few
might
weeks
even rebrand as the IPL Cricket Podcast. Who knows?
Could do that. Yeah. Really, really. The Impact Sub IPL Cricket Podcast. There you go. And all we're going to talk about is Impact Subs for 3 months.
So it's going to be there's going to be a real cult following around somebody, and I'm looking forward to knowing who that is.
Yeah, it'll be you remember like James Faulkner once hit some runs against England in a pointless ODI, and then for ages people were like, "Oh, the finisher, James Faulkner." It's like, why are people like he did it once against like Monty Panesar at the MCG, and now he's got a global brand. That is 100% happening. The first time some team gets it right, it will be they're going to basically rename the whole thing to.
It's like going to be the Bankad, but for the Impact Sub.
Like
brilliant.
Shivam Dubey super sub. Right. Yeah. Let's call it a day. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks everyone for watching.
Goodbye.
Cheers, guys.